If one were to quote a cliche of cliches, in my books it would be, change is the only constant. But cliches become cliches for a reason. Change is happening around us at a furious pace. I'm sure you will agree with me. If you look at the last 10 years, the amount of change that we've gone through far outweighs the change in the last 50 years. If you look at the last 50 years and change that has happened over 5 decades, it far outweighs the change that has happened over the last 500 years. Change is happening really quickly, but let me bring you back to the present. Change is happening at a furious pace, and it's also in the process creating a huge level of competitiveness. Let's look at what I'm talking about. We used to consume music by listening to spools. Then we moved from spools to vinyls or records, from records to cassettes, from cassettes to CDs, and now we consume music digitally. Hey, easy, par for the course. We used to write to each other, in snail mails or letters. Then we progressed to the telex machine, we progressed to the fax machine, we started to email each other, which still happens to a large extent. But now what do? We pick up our device and we FaceTime each other. So change is inevitable, change is happening fast and furious, and it's creating an environment of heightened competitiveness. Which leads me to my next cliche, be the change or be left behind. I'll say that again, be the change or be left behind. And to actually address that, we must be proactive. Proactivity must become an integral part of our lives as individuals and as professionals. We need to stay ahead of the game. Proactivity, staying ahead of the game. I'll give you an example. 25 plus years ago, a couple of co-founders and me started a company called Fountainhead Promotions and Events, and the line of business was event management. At that point in time, people used to kind of raise an eyebrow when we said we are event managers. So what exactly do you do? And we said we are the aggregators or the creative glue between a supply and demand situation, and the raised eyebrow stayed a raised eyebrow, and they said, we do a lot of events, we do a lot of meetings, but our admin department does it for us. Of course, as time moved on, they learned to accept that we were bringing value to the table, and the business of event management grew. Obviously, as a consequence, a load more agencies started to get formed, and the business became competitive. And in a scenario like that, you need to keep reinventing yourself. Proactivity. So what do? We figured a large part of the value we were bringing to the table was based on our production value, based on timely delivery of expectations, based on cost effectiveness. So we decided to backward integrate, and we formed a company called the Production Terminus, which did exactly that. And it gave us a very, very serious competitive edge because we began to deliver really wonderful designs in production. We started to deliver it at a very competitive price and at a very timely kind of routine. So the Production Terminus gave us a competitive edge, and we managed to stay ahead of the game. Now, I do believe that one needs to constantly reinvent yourself, right? One needs to constantly be proactive. We started to look at what we were doing because the competition was catching up with us, and we figured that we were the creative glue between a supply and demand situation, and we were dealing with just the demand side, the client side, the brand side. But who were they speaking to? They were speaking to their consumers, be it current consumers or potential consumers. And we thought to ourselves, can we actually work at aggregating those consumers, aggregating those communities, talking to them, bringing them together through a certain process of engagement, and then marry that to the brand? We would be bringing incredible value to the table. We did just that. We formed an outfit called Orange Juice Entertainment, which focused on creating intellectual properties that brought communities together. There are examples as we speak of the Blues Festival, of Adyam, the Theatre Festival, of Celebrate Bandra, which is bringing geographical communities together, and we married it to brands. So we were, again, at the cost of sounding repetitive, staying ahead of the game. As the years went on, we figured that we were becoming largely a digital community as well, in various avatars of consumption. And we figured that digital was becoming a larger quotient in our business. So we started Fountainhead Digital, which to date actually maps activation globally, which is a very, very difficult thing to do. Activation being the last mile connectivity with an end user. Not just do we map activation, but we use AR, VR, MR, all the reality forms to actually augment retail efforts through digital intervention. And that, of course, has hit the ground running and is doing quite well. More recently, given the current situation we face, we've formed another platform called Merge, which is a digital platform that helps marry physical to digital. The new, should I say, mantra is phygital. Digital in the current avatar, and in the going forward, digital will augment experiential. I don't believe it will ever replace it. But one needs to be ahead of the game, and Merge is another case in point. Now, to be proactive, to be ahead of the game, one needs to be comfortable with who you are as a person and as a company. You need to be happy doing what you do, and being happy can only happen if you do what you're comfortable doing. It reminds me of a brilliant story of John Lennon. Everyone knows him as one of the four Beatles, but he was a genius. And apparently, story goes that once in class, he and the rest of his classmates were asked to write down what they wished to become when they grow up. And John Lennon wrote, "I wish to be happy." And he was told that he hadn't understood the question. And he turned around and told the teacher that she hadn't understood life. How prophetic was that? Or how prophetic is that? He later on in life went on to say that life is what happens while you are planning and strategizing other things. Life is what happens to you while you do that. And again, how relevant is that statement? He truly was a genius. So it's important to be happy. Being happy allows for you to be the best you can be, individually and collectively. And being happy requires certain parameters that one needs to acknowledge and embrace. Let me enumerate quickly 10 lessons in a few minutes, okay? My first lesson is go on a discovery. Very often, we don't do that. We don't figure who we are. We don't figure what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are. Who and what are we meant to be? We should not succumb to peer pressures and family pressures. We must do what we feel convicted that we need to do based on who we are. So go on a self-discovery. Then, once you've discovered who you are, find time to pursue your passions. Very often, we dismiss passions as hobbies, but passions make us bigger and better human beings, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly, and help us achieve what we wish to achieve in life. My third point is define your terms and live it. Like I said earlier, define the terms on which you want to live life and live it. There will be challenges in life. There's no success without challenges. But we need to overcome these challenges. We need to define the terms on which we will go ahead and have courage of conviction to live it and follow it. My fourth point is about chasing positivity. Again, challenges, like I said, will happen, but challenges can do two things to us. It can either knock us back and demotivate us, or it can motivate us to raise the bar and become better and more powerful individuals and companies. So, like they say, the glass is never half empty. It's always half full until, of course, it's bottoms up time. But that's another story. So always focus on the positives and use challenges to become better people and more powerful people or companies. Another favorite thought of mine is learning. Very often, we use academics as the only part of learning. No, academics is what we wear on our visiting card, but learning goes on forever, goes on for a lifetime. We need to be students for life, because every day that we live, we need to learn from it. So keep an open mind to learning right through life. My sixth point being, be a student of life, because there's lots and lots and lots to learn from life itself. And these learnings very often come from very unexpected quarters. We can learn principles from management companies, We can learn principles from family around us. We can learn principles from very unconventional areas like the house help or the watchman or the driver. These are people whose conversations are not curated and hence they are real conversations. Stay hungry is my 7th point. Constantly stay motivated. And when I say motivated, one needs to be hungry to learn. One needs to feed your passions. One needs to feed that spirit of adventure in you to learn more. And constantly feed it, because additional knowledge can do you no harm. In fact, it can raise you to the next level. So stay hungry. Do what it takes to stay hungry. Another very important point is my 8th point. Don't let money be your only scoreboard. Money is important. I'm not going to deny it. I don't think anyone can deny it. But don't let it be your only scoreboard. Very often we make it our only scoreboard and it leads to nothing short of disaster. I was once told that if you do what you love, you end up loving what you do, and commerce follows automatically, and I truly believe that. There's a great story of the butterfly. If you try and chase a butterfly, it will do everything within its means to escape from you. But maybe if you stay still and just accept it, it could well settle on your shoulder. So don't let money be your only scoreboard, importantly. My 9th point is know the difference. Know the difference between need and greed. Know the difference between sensationalism and reality. Know the difference between who you are and who the next person is. All of these aspects help you stay grounded, stay real, and stay productive. So know the difference. And my 10th point is really the most important point I want to drive home. Enjoy the journey. Life is not about the destination, it's about the journey. So enjoy the journey. The destination will keep evolving. What's good enough for you? Is a small apartment good enough for you? Is a large home good enough for you? Is a holiday home in addition good enough for you? Is it a bike? Is it a car? Which car? How many cars? Look, the destination will keep changing. But the journey needs to be enjoyed. On this drive of life, enjoy the scenery. Enjoy experiences that happen to you, and automatically you will heighten effectiveness. You will heighten happiness. I'd like to end by saying, enjoy the change. I'd like to go one further and say, be the change. And if you can achieve that, if you can achieve being the change, everything else will follow. Proactivity, staying ahead of the game.